Obviously. Let's talk about these figures with Jonathan Davis. He's an economist. He's also presenter of the Booms and Bust podcast. Good morning to you, Jonathan.
Hello, Julia.
Hello. Well, we were just been talking about breast enlargement operations, the 36, 24, 36 numbers, but these are the numbers that actually affect real people in their lives in terms of what their house is worth, whether they can afford to buy a home, whether they can afford to keep their home, and indeed also whether their wages are going up or down. Generally, though, does it sound like good news to you?
What we see is mild and rising inflation on a trend basis. 3 years ago, inflation was zero. Prices weren't rising at all. We saw the oil price crash until a couple of years ago. Since then, oil, which for me is the biggest input to inflation, is up 150%. So naturally, we have some inflation now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's around 2.5%. You asked me, is it good news? It's basically neutral at the moment because wages are rising at about the same level, so people aren't losing or gaining. I would say, however, the trend is up. Oil price continues up, so we can actually expect to see higher inflation over the next couple of years.
But that's the interesting thing, of course, isn't it? Because the Bank of England, their entire remit is regarding interest rates, which they can use as a weapon to tackling the inflation rate. But the reality is, of course, a lot of the inflation rate is totally outside of the control of anyone in this country.
That is a myth that I would disabuse your listeners of.
Please do.
The central banks of the world, the Federal Reserve of the US, the Bank of England, European Central Bank, they pumped tens of thousands of billions of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever, into the system. That is generally inflationary. On top, they kept interest rates far lower for far too long than they should have done. So what they've done is for years they've stoked up inflation. It's like an oil tanker. It needs a massive amount of space to turn around to move from deflation of the recession of 2008 into inflation.
So this isn't just external stuff. This is actually basically the hangover from how they handled the 2008 crash. Jonathan Davis, lovely to speak to you, sir. Thank you for talking to us, economist and presenter of the Booms and Bust podcast.